Improper responses: no punching, no biting, no kicking. I'm gonna use South Africa as an example. Now, during the apartheid era, um, the anti-apartheid movements, they used public demonstrations and all of that, and this basically the goal was to make the country so ungovernable that even the apartheid regime had to basically come to the table and talk with the leaders of the anti-apartheid movement. Now, unfortunately, that has become the norm when it comes to disagreements, because now everything is, whenever there's an issue that it basically needs proper debate, what do people do? First of all, public demonstrations. And the type of public demonstrations that they've learned way back, basically meaning breaking down of infrastructure, burning and
Wow.
looting and all that. And so whether it be wage disputes or demonstrations of, you can say, service deliveries or whatever, that the same type of demonstrations has been throughout, you know. So the, the improper, um, you can say, response, of course, strong militancy, strong, and we can say anything that is of destructive nature should not be. And I think one of the, even during one of the biggest debates even during the apartheid era, was what is the Christian response even towards a tyrannical state?
Mm.
Should and so that has been even a huge debate. So I think in us, basically, is simply that the Christian response should be the response that reflects the nature of Christ. Um, and so I think the personal insults, for example, yes, we turn the other cheek and all of that, all depending on that. However, I think in terms of, let's just say, in a professional setting, I think most democratic countries have laws, and laws that do protect the rights of people. And I think laws are there to be used also by Christians if need be.
Mm.
And so I think, the whole Christian nature of what is it? First dialogue before the need to include the civil law in disputes.
Mm.
And so um, the first thing should always be open dialogue before anything else. But everything should just simply reflect our attitude. Um, Even our responses, our writings on social media, you know, it should always reflect the Christian nature and not just people who are angry and bitter all the
Mm.
time.
Just read Acts 19, the riot in Ephesus yesterday. So that's like still fresh in my mind. How that guy Demetrius tried to incite a riot against the disciples of Paul, and how a city clerk appealed to the undeniable fact of the goddess Artemis, and also I thought most interestingly to the structure of law and order that was already in place in that society, and that enabled him, that simple city clerk, whoever that person was, quelled that riot and sent them home. So that
I
was an
think,
interesting way of.
yeah, because I think even take further and just look at how Paul dealt with his arrest. You know, he went there, he presented his argument logically and through proper discussions and debates and everything else, and of course if people didn't want to listen to whatever, he made his appeal all the way to the highest court. And But he used a system that existed basically to protect his own rights as a Christian
Mm,
and as a citizen.
right.
So, and I think that's something that so it's okay to use the law, but at the same time, it should always first have proper debate, proper discussion first, with an attitude of, a Christ-like attitude, and of course, if the other party simply does not wish to preserve your rights as a Christian, then yes, feel free to use the law because it is there as a protection of the citizens.
Other additions from Dr. Yancey?
You know, there's multiple facets to how we respond. Uh, and as I said before, we have to look at the level of what we're facing. You know, as an African American, sometimes I have to respond to racial issues, and sometimes I do need to turn the other cheek, and sometimes there's larger issues at play here. That the dehumanization being faced is not just about me; it's about other African Americans, and so I have to respond accordingly. And so there are times in which we should, even whether we do or not, we should turn the other cheek. At the level of insult, but even at the level of insult, sometimes the insults are so dehumanizing they have to be addressed as well. So it takes some wisdom to realize that there's not one response for everything.
Mhm.
I appreciate what Dr. Gabriel has to say about using our legal rights at this point I mean, we're put in certain positions. I feel responsibility as a professor to be able to do certain things within my power to address issues. I get to blog. I can write books. I can do certain things, and I feel some responsibility of using what God has given me, the position God has given me, in order to do that. To speak out for those who are not spoken for.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think that we have to think about it that way as well. Where are you at, and what's God giving you? Knowing your own limitations. I mean, obviously, I have limitations of what I can do, but there are things I can do, and I should. But I would also like to just mention, a larger response beyond responding back to Christianophobia. That we live in a post-Christian society, and I think for us as Christians to thrive in a post-Christian society, we have to build our community. In other
Mhm.
words, part of our protection is going to be we protect each other. That not that and that community is going to be a community that reaches out and serves others. I love what a lot of churches are doing nowadays, paying off medical debt. That's a fantastic witness that we're seeing. So it's not insular that we only take care of ourselves, but we're going to have to take care of ourselves. We're going to have to watch out for each other. We're going to have to protect one another. We have to raise our kids in community. I strive to raise my boys in community, in the Christian community. And thinking about how I can keep Christian influences in their lives, not just from our family, but from the families of our church and from other friends who are Christian as well.
Mhm.
Economics. How can we protect ourselves? Because there are going to be economic costs to being an outed Christian in our society. So how do we support each other economically? How to support each other intellectually? I mean, I think these are larger questions that we have to continue to answer in a post-Christian world, and we can't assume that the community out there is going to be supportive of us. When in many ways, it's not going to be, especially in our culture and entertainment, in academia, in the media, you know. And how can we as a community invade those areas as well? So that we just don't stay in this ourselves, but can we send emissaries, for example, into academia, which hopefully this group can help do? Can we impact that community as well? But we're not going to be the majority culture. If we still are, we're not going to be very much longer. We have to learn how to react accordingly. And as African Americans, I tell you, one of the ways African Americans survived in the United States when we faced so much oppression was we built our community. And so I think we have to think about along those lines as well as how do we respond to anti-Christian attempts.
So George Yancey has a book called Hostile Environment: Understanding and Responding to Anti-Christian Bias, and he has a whole chapter on how to deal with Christianophobia. So, so that's really useful.